Hey, welcome back. Welcome. Today, it's raining here in the city. You might hear that in the back. I have my medical chamomile and lavender tea. What are you having? And let me send some love out to all the straight A students who've been hanging out in the short section, in the post. If you are trying to talk about Sarah right now, meet me over at the 20-minute mark. Go. Still here? If you're still here, we were in the short section under a post talking about Sharon Tate. Yesterday, I think that was yesterday, we had a conversation about Sharon, so I wanted to talk about that before we got into our conversation about Sarah. Sending love to all the subscribers, all my people, the mods, best mods on YouTube. Know that. And shout out to NK. We're definitely going to have to pillage through that Chris Watts case. I've been deep diving in. Let's get this party started. Shout out to my girl J-Mac. Hey J-Mac. J-Mac says, I don't understand how anyone can take another person's life, not counting self-defense or defending my children and loved ones. Right. But especially a pregnant woman's life with a knife. I can't remove a splinter without feeling queasy. How can one do that? Bet says, Bet Davis. Hey, Bet. I'm sorry, but I really think Roman was in on this. There are some very troubling, quote, coincidences if you look into it. Really? Sidebar. This happened before my time. But as a girl, I can remember when I was small, my grandmother, we used to watch Perry Mason, Angela Lansbury. That was actually my favorite. And Murder, She Wrote. I think Murder, She Wrote, yes. And Matlock. Matlock was my favorite. Leave a comment below with your favorite old show if you're a true crime fan. Now, I say all that to say, I remember hearing conversation about Charles Manson, and as a little girl being scared of this man who was already locked up in prison. It was like he was like a real life boogie monster, but I never knew all the details. So today that's what we'll do, just dive deep into what happened to Sharon Tate. You know, it'll be almost 50 years that she's been gone, her and her baby, rest in peace, and all of the victims that were in that home and others since these crimes happened, and they're still as captivating today as they were then. I almost said know that. Can't wait to talk about Sarah later. Roberta Real. Hey Roberta, shout out to my baby Roberta. I was 10 when this happened. First Sharon Tate and her guest, then the LaBiancas. Horrible. The LaBiancas. Annie Oakley says, hey Annie, Danny, have you heard about Nicholas Shriek's book or read Chaos by Tom O'Neill? I'm not positive we will ever know the whole truth. There are huge findings. And that comment cuts off. Oof. K. Sean 01 says, read the book Helter Skelter with prayer hands. I've heard about Helter Skelter, but I don't know what it is. I might have to get that audiobook tonight and listen to it this weekend. Harvey says, interesting photos. This must have been a few years before 1969. Just curious. Sidebar, this post came upon because we were talking under a post where I had just watched a short documentary here on YouTube about Sharon. And it was gripping, to say the least. Heartbreaking would be an understatement. Especially, she was pregnant. A pregnant nursing mother. These beautiful pictures of her that were released. She was days away. Let's get into this article by People. It tells you this is 56 years. 56 years. This article is by Jessica Sager and Nicole Palmerito. Before we get started, trigger warning. Get your snacks, get whatever you need, pour a drink, and let's get this party started. Just 1 year after winning a Golden Globe and while she was expecting her first child with husband, famed actor Roman Polanski. And that's who you guys were saying is suspicious, right? Roman? Tate became the highest profile victim of one of the most infamous murder sprees of all time. The blonde starlet, whose most famous role was as Jennifer in Valley of Dolls, was 8.5 months pregnant when she was brutally taken away in her Los Angeles home, along with her hairstylist and ex-boyfriend, Jay Sebring, Folger's coffee heiress, Abigail Folger, I remember that, Wojciech Frykowski, and Stephen Parent on August 9th, 1969. Police eventually traced the slayings to the followers of Charles Manson, who used the victim's blood to write messages on the walls of the home. Manson and his, quote, family of followers were eventually convicted of 9 slayings, and Manson himself was serving 9 life sentences in prison before his death at 83 in 2017. However, Tate's sister, Deborah, believes there may be way more victims in Manson's cult that haven't been discovered. Sidebar. Isn't that something? He lived to be 83 years old. Tate was born January 24th, 1943 in Dallas. Shout out to Texas. She was a pageant regular, dabbling in modeling. Beautiful girl. While living in Italy with her family as a teen, she became an actress and appeared as an extra in films. She was even on the Beverly Hillbillies and Mr. Ed. I used to love that show. Then that landed her first role in a horror film, Eye of the Devil. Here enters Polanski, who she was introduced to when she was hired to star in his horror comedy, The Fearless Vampire Killers, in which Polanski co-starred as her love interest. They began dating and she moved in with him at his London home after filming. A lot of people fall in love while they're filming, right? I was at Fox Studio today. They have a lot there that looks just like New York, with the subway, the signs, the buildings, everything. I posted it in my shorts. You can go over there and check it out. Now, this article goes on to say how their love bloomed. They got married. They had a baby. They got married in 1968, early in the year. Right after that, she was pregnant, ready to have their baby. I'm assuming they came from Italy and decided to move to Sunshine, California, in Beverly Hills on Cielo Drive. We'll visit that house later. It's so creepy. We'll go and hang out on Cielo Drive so we can see the house, what it looked like then, and what it looks like now. So what happened to Sharon exactly? The article says, shortly after midnight on August 9th, 1969, a year after she got married and pregnant, Charles D. Tex Watson, Patricia, and Susan entered Tate and Polanski's Beverly Hills home, while fellow group member Linda remained in the car. According to Atkins' court testimony, they ordered Tate, Sebring, Folger, and Fry into the living room of the house, where Watson shot Sebring, then tied Sebring and Tate's necks together with a rope. They kept saying, quote, "Please don't hurt us. We won't tell the police." Atkins recalled on the stand, "Fry kept pulling at my hair and," this is a quote from her on the stand, "Fry kept pulling at my hair and I was fighting for my life. I just kept swinging my knife until I felt it sink into something. I don't know what it was." End quote. Tate begged for her life, as you can imagine, and that of her unborn son, offering herself as a hostage to the group if they just let her live long enough to give birth. Oh, and keep her son safe. That's according to the prosecutor, Vincent B., who wrote the book Helter Skelter, the true story of the Manson murders. Atkins confirmed the harrowing detail in her testimony. She said, "Please don't kill me," and I told her to shut up, and I threw her down on the couch. Atkins testified. She said, "Please let me have my baby." Then text came in and he said, "Delete her." So I deleted her. I just poked her and she fell, and I poked her again. I don't know how many times. I don't know why I poked her. Can you believe that? I wonder if she poked her in the belly. Do any of you guys know that part? Does Helter Skelter cover that? Like the wounds? Does it go as far as like the autopsy? Are you guys thinking that Roman may have been connected to Manson's group, which is why the 26-year-old was attacked? And her ex-boyfriend was there. Why was he there? The hairstylist, there was a couple people there, but why was her ex-boyfriend there at the time? And her husband wasn't. Sidebar, can you guys hear that? It's raining outside. On August 8th, 1969, Tate went out to dinner with friends, Sebring, Folger, Fry, at El Coyote Cafe. That was her favorite restaurant in LA. The group arrived back at her and Polanski's home, where she was later deleted, her and the group. Let's go and look at the house on Cielo Drive. And let's read another comment. VCat says, "The Manson family was totally under Manson's control and were absolutely evil. I know there are conspiracy theories now that Roman was involved, but there is nothing to back that up. I remember when this happened in 1969. The crime was so heinous there was no way anyone was being protected. There was actually 9 victims in 3 separate incidents. The first was 2 weeks before this, when a musician, Gary Hinman, was deleted. Then there was this one where Sharon, Jay, Abigail, Wojciech, and Fry, and Stephen Parent were removed. And the next night, they also took out a couple named La Bianca. Today, the baby would count as the 10th victim." At that time, an unborn child wasn't considered a human life. So today, that would be 10 people that this bunch of mixed nuts decided to take away. I could see why some people call foul play. This house is up on the hills, and if you will see an aerial view, this is an intentional visit. This isn't like I was just walking down the street and I saw the porch light on, or hey, I'm gonna go a couple blocks down to get into some trouble. No, this is up into the mountains and the hills in Hollywood. That you driving up circles and turning down narrow roads, driving on cliffs. It's very, you don't go up there for no reason. So clearly they were up to no good that night. On the evening of August 8th, a 26-year-old Tate was 8 months pregnant at home while Polanski was away. That's the boyfriend that I was wondering about. Maybe if there was a connection between that, if her husband was jealous, maybe? I'm not sure. However, one person survived. He lived in the guest home, but he had a visitor. One of the 4 people that were taken away with Sharon at the same time, he was caught by the Manson group on the way out just by chance after visiting the guy in the guest house. The next day when the police got there, the guy in the guest house was the only person alive. He didn't even know what happened. Is that suspicious to you guys? What do you think? You know, this is new to me, but it's just a little suspicious. Keep my good eye on that. We'll keep our good eye on the house too. Let's check out the house back when the crime happened and now. You see the hills? You see what I mean when I say it? You have to intentionally be going to this neighborhood. There's not like a local store or the houses aren't close together. You have to, like that road right there, you have to drive. Those houses usually have their own blocks, pretty much. It could take a block to get to someone's door. This is the house now. Do you see what I mean about, you see all of that land and the mountains around the house? These are the girls, the young ladies. At 11 p.m., after Sharon came from El Coyote, the restaurant, the waitress that served her said she was so nice and she was tired, she was fatigued. She was ready to go home and lay down, being 8, almost 9 months pregnant, days away from giving birth. So she decides to go home instead of taking an invitation from one of her girlfriends for a party. Many speculate that she might have lived if she didn't go to that party. But these girls and guys had a mission. Charlie Manson apparently wanted to be a musician. He wanted to be in Hollywood. He wanted to be famous and rich. He was rejected by multiple people, so he had it out for Hollywood, for celebrities. And the person that lived in that house on Cielo Drive before, even though he knew they no longer live there, he knew someone that represented Hollywood and fame and glitz and glam resided at that home, even if it was a pregnant mother, an innocent pregnant mother and her friends just coming out from hanging out at a restaurant. Innocent. Would you look at the smiles on their faces? These girls are still proud of what they did. Look at Officer Hot Cuffs right there at the top with that skirt on and her hair. Both of them, they have like nice hair. Okay, I like the way their uniforms are. There's no more skirts now in law enforcement. Back in those days, you could wear skirts. Even those girls going to court, they're all dressed alike. I know that isn't a prison uniform, so they were just able to dress alike during the trial. I bet this trial was wild. Anyone who was around during that time to witness the trial, I wish I could talk to them right now just to see how the media, the news, the temperature of the world was at that time. The way we right now watch trials, I bet the world was glued to their televisions and newspapers, reading the articles. There was no internet, of course, so they were just probably reading articles, watching the news, mesmerized by this whole thing. Rest in peace to the victims. It's been 56 years. This week, November 19th, will mark the anniversary for Charles Manson's death. 83 years old. He lived to 83 years old. What's wild is his followers followed him up until he died or they died. And like Sharon Tate's younger sister, who was 15 at the time Sharon passed away, her mother too, and multiple people, even some of you in the comment section, feel that these gals and guys were not the only ones involved in Charlie's group, and probably were responsible for a lot more massacres around the world at that time. They were traveling. There was no DNA, no body cams, no license plate readers, no cameras on the street. People were able to get away with crimes back then. We see all the time cold case crimes. People commit crimes, go on and live a normal life for 20 years, and then some cop or detective does DNA and goes and knocks on their door and say, hey, we know what you did last summer. I believe around that time the Zodiac killer was the only one who was playing with the media and doing just like really salacious slayings around the town. I don't even know how to say it. Was the Zodiac killer. That's another conversation. He was the only one who was dominating the media at that time. Charlie apparently was trying to start a race war. He wanted to start a war with Hollywood. So he would target a certain demographic of people. The Zodiac killer, he seemed like he just picked random people that he saw through the world. Isn't that scary? You could just be walking around, minding your business in the world, and someone can fixate on you. And there's no way to stop that person's thirst. You know, like Charlie, his thirst for people in Hollywood or people with stature at that time for the life that he wanted to live. There was no stopping him from, quote unquote, paying them back or making them pay. Let's switch gears a bit and go check on Sarah. All right, let's get this party started. Let's talk some Sarah. Now, what I gather from this phone call that Sarah has with this gentleman who's on the phone, he's funny as heck. I'm like, yes, keep feeding her. He's asking her some like good questions. Like, Sarah, don't you think you should just settle for the alimony? Instead of $60,000, whatever Brian is offering you, he's going to have to pay a lot of money for the attorney. I don't care. You don't know how much he spent on Uber Eats. He spent thousands on Uber Eats. And the guy's like, okay, because you could walk away with nothing. What do I have now? Nothing. You can clearly tell he wants to tell her, like, are you serious right now? But he's, like on eggshells. He doesn't want to say anything because, Sarah. Now, I was hanging out in the YouTube streets. Have you guys been pillaging and hanging out? I saw a video from Lazy Gamer covering the phone call. It was hilarious. You guys go and check that out. Hear me out. I heard his call the other day. Shout out to the third rail for the phone call. Even though I went over to the page and all of the videos were gone. It's like this page is so mysterious. I don't know what's going on. So where is my water? Hold on. Okay, so from what I gathered, Sarah has went on a doctor's appointment, right? She has a 7-inch scar on my stomach. She has a scar on her stomach where she's in pain. We saw in the behavior notes where she was given an extra pillow for that at the time. We didn't know what was going on. Now we know. We're kind of connecting the dots. So Sarah's went to a doctor's appointment. She's went out into the world. She's on a bus. She's looking out the window. She's interacting with people. She's had her procedure and now she's going back to Lowell. And reality has hit her. It's sinking in that she needs to get former husband's ASS in court so she can get her money. She's like, I could be living comfortably. And she's also like, I could have been doing what the doctor was doing, like the girl at the office. That could have totally been me, and then I could have been picking up my son afterwards. She's like thinking of all of the things she could have done. And she's just like, it was so triggering, like, just seeing everybody out there in the world, and the guy, he's like, well, what did you see, Sarah? What did you see? And she's like, just everything. And he's like, people, yes, people, working, driving, walking, everything, just everything, and he's like, oh yeah, yeah. So she's like, I need the financial statement so that I can get former husband's finances. She's saying that former husband gets like $500,000 from his family and she knows it. And she's like, he's not nice as you think. I keep telling you, she's trying to convince this guy that former husband is the bad guy, that he's the terrible one. And she's the nice one who's being wronged in this situation. It's so wrong what he's doing. I could be living comfortably. So, that's when the guy, he's like, well, hey, Sarah, have you ever thought about taking a settlement? He's going to have to spend a lot of money when he goes on these attorneys and going to court. He's going to have to spend money. I'm pretty sure he'll want to settle. See, you don't know what you're talking about. I keep telling you. Do you know how much he spent on Uber Eats? And she's like, plane tickets that on a vacation that he's never went on. And she also, sidebar, while she's talking about George and his children, she's also kind of talking about her own child. She's like, he's putting little man on a pedestal or whatever. They're living large, whatever, treating him how he thinks he deserves to be treated. But what about me? He can't even throw me $20, $15, nothing. I need to get his ASS in court ASAP. She's like, I would trade my life for an attorney, please. I would trade my life for an attorney. And he's like, yo, I think we should reach out to the court for that. She's like, well, yeah, okay. And he's like, yeah, we should reach out to the court because they should be able to help you, right? And she's just switching gears, like, everyone thinks former husband is this like weak blob of insecurities gnawing at his nails with tears coming down his face, and he's just so weak and timid. No, you don't really know who he is. It is so sidebar. It's so crazy to hear her trying to convince everyone. Oh, she even used the same lingo when she was describing former husband's family. His whole family, she said about his whole family doesn't like her. And now that I'm in jail, they're doing backflips and high-fiving each other because I'm here. This is definitely a new level unlocked. Like, dun dun dun, the prison level. What level would this be? We've been through the crime, the interrogation. Somebody leave a comment below. What level is this? This is definitely inmate Boone. She's like, my wrists, they're all bruised up because they had the handcuffs on me for like 8 extra hours. And she's just like complaining about everything that's going on, saying that seeing people really bothered her, and going back to the prison, which I can imagine, hey, you can, yeah, I can totally imagine that, especially knowing that she turned down that deal. That's why I don't understand when the guy, he's like, hey, are you sure you don't want to settle? Because what if you walk away with nothing? Well, what do I have now? Nothing. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm pretty sure he's probably like, this chick is nuts. Oh, Sarah. Nobody knows, but I know. And know that. You didn't fly up the damn stairs. Nobody made you go up the stairs. She's like, hold on, wait. I think I took notes, you guys, from the phone call. We're going to have to read some comments later, too. Some of you got a chance to listen to the calls, too, for yourselves. The bidet gate. Sarah she was livid. Brian also, he's at home. He's hanging out. He's enjoying himself. He has a $2,000 bidet. Do you know? No. When the guy, he's asking her about settling, right? She's like, no, do you understand what I'm saying? A $2,000 bidet. And he couldn't even put it in his bathroom, so he had to put it in the little man's bathroom. She's like so upset. And then she's describing a phone call. She's like, I was so happy. Everything was fine and dandy. Shout out to Dandy, True Crime. Everything was fine and dandy. And I called little man. We talked on the phone, and he said, Mom, hey, call me right back in 30 minutes. Okay, Mom, call me back in 30 minutes. And she's like, stupid me. I called him back. Yeah. What happened, Sarah? I called him back and he didn't answer. I called for 6 hours straight and he didn't answer. I don't know why. I know former husband told him not to answer. You don't know how he is. And he's like, oh, I hate to see you like this, Sarah. Yes, you don't know. I know how vindictive he is with money and things, and especially with his family behind him, and now me being in jail. 6 hours. And sidebar, we've seen in the behavior notes, if you guys haven't been through the behavior catalog, she would mention how she's called 337 times, or I've texted you 720 times now and you didn't respond. Like, she made a itemized list and call log about how many times she texted, what she asked for. I need socks and underwear. You're not sending it to me. So now it makes sense. She knows Brian is out living large, as she puts it. And she is not willing to settle for $6,000. I believe that's what the gentleman said. I don't know if it was a roundabout. He's like, $6,000. I think that's what he was offering, right? And it's in the financial statement. I know what a financial statement is. I had to do one for the divorce, where he gave me $12,000 and bought me out of the house. I'm like, hey, she was bought out. He paid her and took care of her. Oh, and listen to this. Wow, the guy, he's talking to her about, trying to kindly convince her to take the deal, Sarah. Take the deal. Similar to everyone in the criminal case screaming at her to take the deal and how pompous she was sitting up. Reject. That's what she was doing to the gentleman. She was rejecting everything he said. And she's like, why do you think I stayed with him for so long? Yeah, his family was giving him lots of money. Yeah, do you think I would have stayed with him for that long? Why do you think it's important for me to get that financial statement in here? So, sidebar, like I said in multiple videos before, in previous episodes, if she wanted to live the life of a rich woman or a kept woman, why didn't she stay married to former husband? She wanted to go and hang out in slum at Muldoon's barefoot with her pink shorts. My very favorite part about the whole bidet gate, the whole bidet conversation, was when he's like, oh, Sarah, like a bidet. And then and he won't even send me $20 or $15. But a $2,000 bidet, he bought that and then he told me about it. He told me about it. It drives me up the wall to see how she treats the people like the guy on the phone, the gentleman. He's helping her. He's doing things for her. He's talking about like taking care of her paperwork. Lana, we know Lana bent over backwards for Sarah. Like, Lana did so much. She would be out with her family. Like, she did so much for Sarah. Former husband, we know former husband did so much for her. George, he did so much. Everyone, Melissa, the apartment manager, just her fans, her. I have a multitudinous amount of fans around the world. They like me. Everyone who's nice to her, she is totally an ice queen. She's an ice queen. I think the phone call, he's saying to her like, why do we only have 1 minute left? What's going on? Because it's silly me. I used my 5-minute phone call and now I'm out of time, So they're about to be out of time on the phone call. I don't know how long the phone calls are. He's like, oh, okay, Sarah, so call me back. When this call ends, just call me back. But he's still trying to kind of convince her, to take the deal. She's like, I will never surrender. It reminded me of when she was in the interrogation and she's like, are you trying to get me to admit? Because I'll never admit. Didn't she say something about not owning a white flag? I don't own a white flag. Shout out to all of my gamblers out there who's willing to take a risk. Sarah seems like she will bet all on black. Shout out to the hair braiders. Judge Jackson, where are you? We are still docket watching. It's approaching day 80. 80, you guys. It's approaching day 80. We have heard, rumor has it, we have 90 days for Judge Jackson to come back with a motion. No, there isn't a motion. There would say something on the docket. If it was sealed, we would see that there. It's empty, you guys. I'll see if I have a picture of the docket and show you guys. It's empty. It would say something there. It would be a little like a bing here, but you can't see it. No, Judge Jackson is still dancing with the dogs, figuring out what's what and how many. Where were we on my notes? Okay, adult male. Where in my water? Hold on. And she said to the guy like, she's just dog piling on Brian kind of thing. And the guy, he's like, okay, like, let's be logical. He's going to spend maybe $20,000. I'm just throwing something out there. $62,000. I could be living comfortably in here. I don't even have anything in my drawer but newspaper. Nothing to trade. I have nothing. Sidebar. In the behavior notes, we saw Sarah had so much stuff in her drawers. She got in trouble constantly for using was it Christina's drawer or the empty drawer? There's a bed and a dresser. They both have one. She would use the empty bed. She would use that dresser that was empty. Or if she shared and bunked with Christina, she would use Christina's. Because I remember they would say, whose stuff is this? If I find your stuff in here again, it's going in the trash. It happened 2 more times, and one of the correctional officers, she took it to the table and was going to throw it in the trash. And Sarah's like, hey, that's my stuff. What are you doing? And she's like, oh, this can't be your stuff, because I remember we just had a conversation where I told you, don't have your stuff in another drawer. Everyone has one drawer. And she's like, oh, they must go home and think about ways to torture us. Also, she had a job working in the facility, cleaning up and doing maintenance and like housekeeping. And they would also do these shakedowns and find so much stuff in her drawers. So she's saying to the gentleman on the phone, like, oh, my drawer has nothing in it but newspaper. I don't even have anything to trade. So I think that's kind of like her way of, poor me, holding people as a captive audience, right? Nothing is ever fair. Everyone is always doing her wrong. However, she's offered a sweetheart deal. She's being offered good deals. She's being taken care of. People are coming out of nowhere helping her. And she's just reject. Pretty much this would be 2 sweetheart deals she turned down. If Brian offered her a deal, which I'm pretty sure in the family law case, they wanted to settle. I'm quite sure Brian didn't want to keep going to court spending money on Sarah and her shenanigans. I know she was so upset that she didn't get to come to court face to face on that final family law day. I was upset too, Sarah. I wanted to see you in action, girl. If you were going to have your skirt on backwards, she would have been in her orange jumpsuit at that point, right? Would she have been able to put on street clothing for the family law case? Or would she still have had to wear her just orange jumpsuit at that point? I will never surrender. Are you trying to get me to admit? Because I'll never admit. Know that. Another thing that's just wild to see on the other side of just actually hearing her, because we've all speculated, right? She really did not care that former husband is a single dad now because of her, and he's pretty much throwing money into the furnace. He's burning cash. She's refusing to even settle with him, and knowing she's at the same time claiming how much she loves her son. But she's like, oh, they're living large, they're eating. I think she said Brian's Uber Eats bill was $8,000. And Lana, at the time she sent me the credit card information, it was $8,000. He was going to go bankrupt. And so the guy, he's like, hold on, Sarah, wait. It doesn't make sense. How could he have $1,000, $500,000, and go bankrupt at the same time? Because he knows what to say on those papers. That's why I need to get him. It didn't even make sense what she was saying. And every time he would call her out on it, she would just glaze right over it. Just kind of like she did in the interrogation. I wasn't drunk. I said I was drinking, but I wasn't drunk. Like, you can't kind of like pin her down to an answer. He bought a $2,000 bidet and then told me about it. Yes, he told me about it. So I don't remember seeing a $2,000 bidet in the tablet messages or any messages between Sarah and Lana. Lana, I always say, she helped us secure that life sentence. She helped keep Sarah in her delusion. She was being a friend to Sarah, but she was definitely keeping her in that delusion. Like, even Owens, he was hanging out in Milton, sitting on the couch, being a good old boy, hanging out with Tony, watching YouTube from the porch, enjoying the scene. He came Said, let me go and help this young lady. She needs some help. The judge won't even give her another attorney. I'll sit back and see if somebody locally helps, but if not, I'll get on in there and, I'll go and help her get a deal, square that away, and head on back down home. Oh, James, that quick turnaround trip turned into a nightmare of sorts, didn't it? James's new spot is probably under the porch now. Under the jail. He probably doesn't even want to be spotted by anyone. Sarah sure does a number on these people, doesn't she? Maintaining focus. We have a lot more to uncover and talk about. I definitely will see you in the chat and comment section. I have so many comments to catch up on. And I'm finally off. Yay! It's raining on my off day. So what's for dinner, you guys? What are we cooking? Like chili, tortilla soup, some are we baking something? What are we cooking? What are we eating? I'll tell you on the next episode what's for dinner. If you made it this far, I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.